Hello everybody, welcome back to Elk Prairie. My name is Kyle. I am the Interpreter 1 here at Prairie Creek Redwood State Park for California State Parks. Prairie Creek is part of Redwood National and State Parks, and today here at Elk Prairie we have a prescribed burn going on, as you can see going on in the background here. So that's an intentional introduction of fire to the landscape here. If you're curious about why or what's going on here, you can check out, we did a live stream a little bit earlier today with Lathrop Leonard, one of the people who's actually involved on the burn side, so talking about his experience here. And now we're going to be doing an interview with one of our friends, one of our other partnerships, Redwood Parks Conservancy, works over in the store at the Visitor Center across the street. I'll let him introduce himself a little bit more, but we're going to just be talking about some of the cultural importance of this burn for the tribe who has lived here since time immemorial, the Yurok people. And Cochise himself is a member of the Yurok tribe, so we'll be talking a little bit about his experience and some of the cultural significance of these prescribed burns here. So let's, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and flip it around, and I'll let Cochise introduce himself.
Aikwi, Neknau Cochise. Hello, my name is Cochise. I don't quite know my Yurok introductions all that well, but that's as far as we can go. I've been working over at the Redwood Parks Conservancy for not too long, but I also bring a cultural side to this place, which is honestly really amazing to inform people about stuff like this, even also things of this nature. Myself, I'm Yurok, or within our own tongue, Saagach, what we call the Yurok language, Pulaget, which means indigenous person. Ourselves, the Yurok, weren't exactly unified, one unified nation, more so a collection of villages that identified as Pulaget. And because of this loose unification, admittedly, things I might be saying might be different from another Yurok person or Pulaget person. So just wanted to explain that to everyone and to show people that we are not exactly a monolith, so to speak. We are just people. But I've been excited for this day because myself, this is a part of our culture, Pulaget culture. For us, fire wasn't some evil foreign entity that would destroy everything. It was more so a simple fact of creation and a simple fact of nature here. Basically, as for starters, for us at least, we have cultural heroes such as Coyote and Vulture, perhaps. However, we didn't really have a higher deity. We also, this kind of threw a lot of people, especially the settlers, off, because, you know, who else do we worship? The thing we tend to worship, however, is creation. We didn't exactly worship some deity that made this prairie, more so the fact that the prairie existed and had a spirit was the thing that we worshipped. Creation, not creator. So for the longest time, as a Yurok person, my elders before me would always talk about burns like these and how big they get. And we would do these around fall or winter when it gets a lot more wet out here. This place is classified as a rainforest for a reason. Obviously, it's not just the Yurok tribe alone here, it's also CAL FIRE and the state parks, and I would like to say thank you to everyone here, Waklau, for this wonderful opportunity. And I always heard about how interesting these fires were, and seeing it with my own eyes, and if anything, having a front row seat is honoring to both me and probably the rest of my ancestors, because for the longest time our culture has been suppressed, especially during the 1850s and the 20th century in general. I'm real lucky to be born within a time of a cultural revitalization, so myself, I am able to learn my tongue a lot easier, be able to express like to people outside who aren't Yurok our culture, our ways, who we are, and just have it be more generally accepted than for it to be shunned, ignored, or to potentially get punished for that. So I'm sure my ancestors are smiling on me for something like this, and also probably real happy to see this come back to this prairie here.
That's awesome. So you talked a little bit about some of kind of the emotions that you're feeling, or some of what this means to you. Could you just run us through, even in just saying a word, kind of what are some of the things you're feeling here today, seeing this prairie burning?
Excitement, joy, and adrenaline. I don't know why. It's really interesting. I'm not even a part of the fire crew, and it's probably really interesting to them, but just being here and seeing this fire burn, it means a lot.
Absolutely. Cochise, do you have any knowledge of some of the kind of traditional cultural practices of this prairie or this area? Like why, cultural burns existed here for thousands of years prior to California state parks and CAL FIRE and things coming in and facilitating these things. Do you know, or can you talk a little bit about some of the reasons for cultural burns as opposed to prescribed burns? So we talked with Lathrop earlier about some of the reasons for the prescribed burning, and there is a little bit of a difference between a cultural burn and a prescribed burn.
So for cultural burns for us, as I mentioned earlier, we wanted to try and introduce fire back into the land, into creation itself. We would use it as hopefully another tool for world renewal. I know we have our own calendar, and towards, I want to say, winter, we would begin quite a bit of our, or even within January and February, would begin quite a bit of our world renewal stuff. And fires like these would help facilitate the beginning stages of our world renewal, both within this area and within the Yurok territory itself, which is basically a little more than just this prairie, of course. It was from Trinidad to just shy of Crescent City, and then 5 to 10 miles east of the Klamath. And so villages within Prairie Creek State Park, however, would have been Espew and Otsagan. These villages would have, for hundreds, if not thousands of years, maintained this prairie and burnt it just to basically facilitate world renewal and to make sure that creation isn't ruined.
Excellent. Spectacular. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Just we're going to wrap up here in just a moment. Is there anything else you'd like to just pass on to our viewers, or any other final thoughts as we close up here?
Thank you for listening. I work at the gift shop, or Redwood Parks Conservancy, and so sometimes I end up oversharing to people who just came in to buy something. But I am glad to be able to have a platform and also time with people to explain the importance of this here fire, and I hope everyone is doing okay wherever they are. Waklau, which means thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Cochise. I'm just going to wrap up here. I want to talk just about a couple other things. We mentioned that Cochise is one of our spectacular partnership organizations, and really what you see going on with the controlled burn here is a product of partnership. We have so many different organizations involved with this. Redwood Parks Conservancy is one of our important organizations that we work with. They help out with our gift stores and our visitor centers and things. The folks who are involved with this fire, we've got CAL FIRE, we've got California State Parks, we've got folks from the national parks who are joining us here today. We've got the Yurok tribe, we've got folks from the California Conservation Corps, the CCC, and we've also got folks from our local Pelican State Prison who are all out here helping, being involved in this controlled burn that's happening here today. So it's really important to do these things just from a natural resource standpoint. This prairie will become a forest if it's not burned. This is important habitat for elk, deer, our large grazing animals, as well as for migrating birds. I also want to mention that this is really important and a helpful practice just with climate change, helping to reduce the fuel load here, that if we did have a fire event after these controlled burns like this, there's a lot less fuel. That fire is not going to burn as hot or as big because it's not going to have as much fuel to burn from. So just with the fires going on through the rest of the state, California, again, hope everybody's staying safe wherever you're joining us from here. But this controlled burn, is helpful for the natural resources. It's preemptive management for some things that might happen with increased temperatures and things with climate change. And so this is such an important thing to be able to do this, and it's such a huge project. If you want to learn a little bit more about some of the planning and things like that, please do check out our live stream from a little bit earlier today with Lathrop Leonard answering all kinds of questions. And as always, if you folks have any more questions, please do pop them down in the chat. We'll be cycling around and checking those out every once in a while. So if you have questions, we come through and answer them. Please do comment them. But in the meantime, we're going to call it here for today. Hope you all have been enjoying our little bit of coverage here for this controlled burn. Hopefully you got a glimpse of that. That was one of the flares that was being shot off to light the prairie in kind of the middle area. We had some questions about that noise earlier, so hopefully you caught a glimpse of that in the background there with them launching off some of the flares and continuing this controlled burn going on today. So again, this prairie's burned just about every year. That's kind of the goal.